Hi, welcome to today's video. My name is Paul. So this week's video, I'm going to ask you a question. I'll show you a couple of quotes, ask a question. It's quite a divisive question. It'll divide people quite strongly, and people have strong opinions about this. On screen you can see one of my recent little watercolor landscapes. This landscape has absolutely nothing to do with today's video, other than I wanted something in the background for the introduction. Why not? Why not share some art? At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Okay, so as promised, the two quotes. Number one, this quote, the top one, is often attributed to Pablo Picasso. As with all of these quotes, I have no idea if the person ever said this. I wasn't there. I wasn't even born. But anyway, it's usually attributed to Picasso. Learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. And then the second one underneath that is attributed to the American abstract expressionist artist, Helen Frankenthaler. And she said, "There are no rules. That's how art is born, how breakthroughs happen." I think both quotes are, in their own way, they're encouraging us to be unique individuals, to use imagination and creativity and create a kind of art that is our own. At least that's the way I'm reading the two quotes. But the route that you take to get to that point is very different. So Picasso seems to be suggesting that there are some rules that you should learn first, and then you can learn to break them and bend them and ignore them and whatever. Whereas Helen Frankenthaler seems to be saying that no, there are no rules. From day one, you are your own artist, you are your own person, and you create your own art. I tend to go with the second one. I don't really know what these rules are in art. I wasn't aware that there's a rule book for artists. Maybe, I guess what Picasso is saying is there are lots of conventions. There are lots of theories and ideas that have been built up over time by many different artists over generations. Ideas like using perspective or color theory, composition, and all that sort of stuff. And maybe what he's saying is you should study all of that, and then you can decide which aspects of it you want to include or to change or just ignore. Whereas Helen Frankenthaler's approach seems to suggest is that you don't need to do that. You don't need to spend all that time learning all that stuff if you're just going to break the rules and do your own thing anyway. What's the point in learning it all just to break it? I think both are very valid in their own way. However, I would tend to favour the second quote, Helen Frankenthaler's quote. Just ignore the rules. There are no rules. You do your own thing. To me, see, in some subjects that's not true. In most subjects it's not true. If you want to be a brain surgeon, yes, of course you have to learn the rules and you have to learn how to do things properly. You can't just open someone up and start experimenting. If you want to learn to drive a car, you have to follow the rules. Pretty much every country in the world has some set of rules that you have to learn and you have to follow them. You can't just wake up in the morning and think, you know what, today I'm going to drive on the other side of the road and see what happens. So there's lots of things in life where there are rules, and yes, you have to follow the rules, and of course you do. I would argue that art is different. To me, art is about being an individual and not being afraid to be different and to stand out a bit and do your own thing. If there's anything in this world where you're allowed to do that, it's art. So I slightly disagree with her quote when she says there are no rules. I don't agree with that. I think there are conventions and ideas and theories, but it's up to you to choose whether or not you want to study that before you start making art. I think you can just dive in, do your own thing. You can learn as you go along. And some of those ideas you might pick up on, and some of you might think this is nonsense. I'm going to keep doing it my own way. I definitely agree with her. That is how art is born. I think it's through this individuality and doing your own thing and not being afraid to do your own thing. It's like the Matisse, Henri Matisse quote, that creativity requires courage, which I interpret to mean that if you're going to be different, you will meet opposition. I guarantee it. There are a lot of people out there who don't like individuals. They don't like people doing their own thing. Why do you do it that way? Why don't you do it the way everybody else does? Follow the rules. Knuckle down. Keep your head down. There's definitely a lot of that in a lot of societies. It's like the Japanese saying that the floorboard nail that sticks up will get hammered down. And unfortunately, there's a lot of truth in that. So if you're going to do your own thing, you can expect some opposition, but you've got to be brave, you've got to keep going, courageous, and just do your own thing. And that, I think, is how unique art and authentic art and original art is created. I say I'm coming from someone who is more in the modernist tradition of art rather than the sort of traditionalist approach to art. My other concern with the first quote is if you do get into all of the rules and the conventions and the theories, can you then break away from that? Can you ignore those rules? Can you break the rules or bend the rules? If you've devoted yourself to studying them, maybe you might be reluctant to then do your own thing. That would be another concern of mine of the first quote. But anyway, as I said at the beginning, this is all very divisive stuff. It's the kind of thing that people have very strong opinions on. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully see you again in next week's video.